Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
British Col Gerrard is a singer and songwriter whose work is rooted in classic songwriting and emotional honesty. Shaped by a life spent moving between places and experiences, his music reflects a deep appreciation for melody, musicianship, and storytelling. Influenced by soul, classic pop, and timeless songwriting, Col's songs feel personal and direct, focused on melody and emotion. In 2026, he released his debut self-titled album, which was recorded across several London studios, including Abbey Road Studios, Metropolis, and Core. It was entirely engineered and produced by longtime collaborator and Grammy-nominated producer Chris Potter. The album delivers a piano-driven, emotionally charged sound, blending soulful, raspy vocals with organic instrumentation. It's filled with driving guitars, upbeat percussion, and a touch of nostalgia, delivering something that is cinematic yet feel good. Cole has been featured by Rolling Stone UK, received extensive UK radio support, toured with Boys Life, and sold out a London headline show at Camden Club. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Col Gerrard. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm in London at the moment, and I actually just got back. I was traveling a bit, and I'm really super looking forward to going back in the studio next week. We're going to pound out about another 15 tracks with Mr. Potter. And yeah, everything's going in, I wouldn't say swimmingly, but in the right direction. How's that?
Okay, so now let's rewind. At what age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this creative world? And how did that journey progress?
Well, really young, actually. My mum was an actress, and my dad was a writer and a director. And but he passed when I was 2. My mum just passed a couple of months ago. I mean, there was an old upright piano in the flat, and after I stopped climbing over it and using it like a jungle gym, I started to play a few things here and there, and it was always around the house all the time, music. And my mum was a soprano singer also, and so it was just around the house all the time. So I guess I was sort of destined to maybe be involved, I suppose. But I like the creative process of music. I love it more than anything. So yeah, I guess that's it's been in me for a long, long time, since probably about 4 or 5 years of age.
Okay, so now having that understanding at that young age, what were the next steps to become professional in this world?
Well, I started out early. I mean, I suppose I got signed to a publishing deal with Warner Chappell when I was 18. It didn't last very long, though, about 6 months, and they dumped me. And then I was playing with different types of bands, and I was writing music for other people. And then I woke up one morning and I said, you know something, I need to make some money. So I got involved in running a business, and it started originally here in London. Then I went to California, and then I was in Africa for about 3.5 years, and other places too. And then about 10 years ago, I also woke up and said, all right, I think I've had enough of this also. I jumped on my motorbike and went to Italy and went to film school for a while. And then that finished. I started making some short films, which I sort of wanted to do because of my dad. Although mainly he was doing children's shows, used to write for children's shows and that sort of stuff, Noddy and that kind of thing. About 3 years ago, I just really missed music like mad. And I started putting a little studio together, started writing some more tracks. And then I found a young lady that's named Zita McHugh that managed a fellow named Chris Potter. And Chris Potter's got a great pedigree, I suppose you could say. I mean, he did the Three Stones records. He's worked with McCartney, Oasis. He did all the stuff with the Verve, and also Richard Ashcroft, and it just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's funny when you go on Spotify and it shows you the different types of people you've worked with. He's got 757, I have 12. But he's such a top geezer, and he took, I guess, pity on me or whatever, said he liked some of the tracks, and we started working together about 3 years ago, and then we put the first record together after that. Oh, I've got so much music that's done and finished and that I want to do. So I keep hounding him all the time. We've got another 15 tracks we've laid down, which we did last December. You know, it's one of them things, you know, ambition is a curse. as I say, but I just love music, and I'm happy enough to do as much music as I can, and people that I like or respect or care about. If even one of them says I like it, then I'm doing all right. I'm pretty happy about that.
The first album that you referenced, that's the one that's just been released. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So tell us about the album, what inspired it, what the creative process was around that project.
Well, a lot of the tracks were sort of old and dusty, you know. And I mean, at one point, Paul Christopher, I sent 50 tracks to him. I said, "You want to divide through all those 50 tracks?" And he was like, "Come on, mate, do us a favor, will you?" But a lot of the tracks sort of came together because, and the ones that we put on this record, because I just sort of wanted to get them out of the way. There was that old thing that George Harrison said about the White Album. And he said that, you know, why are there so many little bits of tracks? He goes, well, we've got all these tracks. We just want to get rid of those and do more after that. And that's kind of the feeling to a certain level. But Chris was really instrumental in looking at all the tracks and deciding, you know, what's really good and what's going to go together well. We also did some fresh writing too. There's probably, I think, 4, 5, 6 tracks on the album, all fresh and new that we wrote in the last, during the album anyways, wrote them, you know, during the album. But yeah, he's pretty the guy. I mean, back in the day, they used to see all the albums, you'd say produced and arranged by so-and-so. And I put a produced and arranged because he's a great arranger, Chris. And he's a great guy to be able to bring your music to and be able to say, you know, he adds compliments to the music. He doesn't try to change it. He just adds compliments to it. I love about him.
The new 15 tracks that you reference, so that is going to be a new album. Do you know when that's going to happen, or you're just still in the beginning?
That'll probably bounce out next January. Everything we do is with a band and musicians, because I'm a massive, massive fan of musicians. I mean, a lot of the people I love is people like the Funk Brothers, which was the house band from Motown, or the Wrecking Crew in Los Angeles. I mean, these musicians were just so incredibly good and so fantastic. And so these are the people that I revere, and these are the people that I look up to. And I think that, you know, there's so much in music these days when it comes to AI or people putting things together or sampling. And I'm not a big fan of either of that, to be quite honest with you. Particularly sampling, I just think that, I don't know how to put it in the right term, that I don't offend some of the people that are sampling, but at the same time, it's not a song to me. You know, it's not creative at all. You're taking 3 tracks or 4 tracks, sticking bits and pieces together. But, you know, it also comes back to haunt you in a small way. I watched the other day this interview with Snoop Dogg, who I really, really like. And he just got on a award from Spotify for 1 billion views. So he gets on the blower and calls his manager. He says, what do I make off of that? He starts going through everything. After the sampling, after this, it made $45,000. It's mad, you know. I mean, on a 1 billion thing is a few million, but at the same time, you know, you got to pay off all the people that you take from, and that's all there is to it. But I'm just a strong believer. I mean, if I think about it, when I was really little, I remember this track come out called Drive by a band called The Cars. Really young, I was like 5 or 6, but I was always had my ear to the radio all the time. I always wanted to listen to new things. I'm still a huge radio fan. And I know sometimes people think radio's, I disagree. I think radio's still the best venue for any kind of music, and not just because we're talking. And but I remember listening for the next few months, maybe next year or so, I must have heard 6 different versions of that song come out. Because I mean, that's what musicians do. They do get inspired by the people, and they say, I think, but at least it was different versions. It wasn't the exact track, and it was less definitely a bit of a rip-off or whatever like that. But at the same time, it isn't a sample. It's a fresh track in a sense. And they got inspired, but all musicians get inspired by other things anyways. They don't necessarily wake up in the morning with an amazing revelation that I'm going to make the track of the century. They might listen to something, get inspired. Oddly enough, I get really inspired by hip hop and also classical music. Yet I don't write anything that sounds anything like that at all. But those are the types of tracks that really, really inspire me a lot. But you'll never hear any of that sort of thing in my music. Maybe a bit of classical, maybe a hip hop beat from time to time, possibly. But I like anybody that's inventive. I like anybody that's new. And I love anybody that's a great musician.
I love me a CD. I still budget for my CDs every month. For me, it's an energy exchange to say thank you to you guys for all the hard work that you're doing. I love the journey of the choice, the booklet, the unpacking, the listening to song from 1 to whatever number. I'm unsure if you are or not aware, a massive uptick of physical around the world. I was reading in Variety a couple of weeks ago that in the US last year, $1.04 billion spent on vinyl, the biggest since 1983. couple of years ago in the UK, 5.9 million vinyls sold, the biggest since 1993. Also interesting, last year in the UK, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on. There needs to be a high number for a product to be put into the basket, and they monitor it for tax purposes. And because of the upsurge of CDs again, CDs are also back in the basket.
Oh, right.
And the research is showing it's all the younger kids. It's the teenagers diving into this world, not the older nostalgic people. Then, as you just mentioned earlier about Spotify and the streaming, what are your observations of the landscape at the moment?
It's a rough ride for anybody. I mean, they say that it's great because you've got an opportunity. Anybody can put some tracks online. Anybody can do anything in a very simple process. The fact is, though, it gets flooded by anywhere from 75,000 to 100,000 new tracks a day. And I do a little bit of Spotify sort of roulette and just stick it on there. And I mean, there was one came on, some guy dancing in his grand's underpants or something, singing some silly song. I mean, I get it, and there's a lot of stuff on there, and maybe it's a little bit of a creative outlet for anybody that wants one, but it's become so saturated now that the possibility of you breaking through on Spotify without spending a lot of money, I mean, that hasn't changed at all, Barrett. It's not changed at all. I remember I was talking to somebody about, paying for tracks or paying for this, or even going on tour, which I did. And, I paid to go on that tour for those lads. And that's the way it goes these days, because they're also trying to make money. A lot of bands now these days, unfortunately, are canceling tours because they're not selling any tickets, because the tickets are so expensive now. People are saying, well, I got one shot a year. Do I spend that on, the Pussycat Dolls who just canceled their entire tour in America because of lack of ticket sales? Or do I go to Taylor Swift, or do I go to whoever else, And unfortunately, the big wigs win out every time, because that's what people want to see, want to go to. And I think Spotify also has to smarten up a little bit when it comes to actually people wanting to make a living. They get 0.03 cents a track. And, you've got to sell billions to make any kind of living at all. So I'm not sure what the future is going to run to, but I like the fact that vinyl and CDs coming back, because it means people want to really own something. And I'm like you. I mean, I still buy, if I want a track or something, I buy it off of iTunes, or I buy this, I buy that. I just can't do the downloading thing. And I don't really listen to Spotify very often. But, we go up and down like crazy on Spotify. I've had up to like 100,000 listeners, and sometimes I got 500. It depends on the week, I suppose, I hope the future says that the good tracks, the great songs, the really good vibes that come out will get a chance to be heard and will get a chance to be seen. But I don't want to be too skeptical, because, again, like I say, it's been paid for play since the 50s. I think, they used to have something called payola.
Yes.
And they would put tracks on and all sorts of stuff, but it hasn't changed. It's just gotten different. And, Spotify, there must be 1,000 companies online that will help you, or supposedly help you get Spotify. Most of them tend to be bots and all the rest of it. But at the same time, some people are just trying to get heard. That's all it is. And again, that comes down to the part that I have a problem with sometimes these days. It's about 90% social media that you have to deal with, and the other part is 10% music. And, I have to do TikTok videos and do this, do that. I don't mind it to a certain level, but I'd rather just be playing. And if you don't do that part of it, though, your chances of being seen or heard. And a lot of artists are breaking these days on things like TikTok just because they do something silly or goofy or whatever, or they beg people sometimes, please, I'm desperate, listen to me. And you see some stuff on it, people are really, really desperate. But at the same time, sometimes that works, And the other part of it is, which I noticed with videos, which is really hilarious. I mean, they used to always say the attention span of the human being is about 20 minutes. It's down to about 5 seconds now.
Yes.
I noticed that on TikTok when you go into the analytics, most of my videos, and I'm not trying to slag myself off here, but most of them are seen for less than 4 seconds. And the funny thing, we did this little thing, was on tour. I'd come off stage and I wasn't too happy with the sound check. And now, how was the sound check? And I put my fingers up my nose. It was a 4-second video, but it got more than anything else on the TikTok thing, and had nothing to do with music, nothing to do with me. Really,
Yes.
just the fact that I thought my sound check was rubbish. So I hope, visionary wise or whatever, I'm hoping, or I'm praying that I think great music comes through, and I think things like vinyl and CDs again are a good opportunity because people get finally that chance to own something, really own it. I mean, that's my album. I can play it as many times as I like. I don't have to pay £10 a month, or I don't have to pay £20 a month, whatever the Spotify these days. It becomes my ownership. And I'm still like that. That's why I buy the tunes in iTunes. In iTunes, every time I go on and purchase a tune, they send me a thing. No, get Apple Music for free for 3 months, But again, I don't own it. And for me, I can't do that. I love music too much. I mean, on my silly phone here, I've got, I think, 15,000 tracks on there.
I decided to do focus groups. I did focus groups of 10 people, 8 people, 3 people, cross-culture, cross-diverse, not massive amounts of people in the greater scheme of things, but I just wanted to sort of test. And I say to these groups of people, if an artist has had 100 million streams, how much money do they think the artist got in their back pocket? The first group of people said 50 million. The second group of people said 1 million. And the third group of people said 300,000 to 2 million. And I said, well, actually, it's more like a couple of thousand. And they were all shocked and horrified. Now, I know Ray, Snoop Dogg, as you mentioned, Kate Nash, Lily Allen, they've all been speaking about these things. I have spoken to a bunch of artists who have said, well, they use it as their business card. They can see they blowing up in Scotland, in Ireland, and in South Africa, so they can go tour there. Another bunch of artists have said, well, actually, if the listening public do have an understanding of this, then they will know that maybe they will dip in and maybe buy a T-shirt, buy a cap, buy a ticket to maybe support you more. Do you feel that the audience should have more of an understanding of what's going on?
Yeah, I do 100%. I remember back in the day, I didn't have record albums when I was a kid. My brother had some. He was a big jazz fan. And I remember I used to like doing the same thing. I'd read the cover notes on the back and all the stuff and that. I loved that. It was like reading a cereal box in the morning when you're sitting at the table, right? You got to have something to keep you busy. Now we all have these phones and all we do is bury our heads in there. I'm hoping that, I mean, it's a hard thing to say, but I agree with you. I'm hoping that people become more educated when it comes to music itself, and more respectful of great singers and great artists, because, the other part is I've been on some tours before and they're all using auto-tune. And I keep saying this, I guess it's not wrong or right, but I'm saying, well, why are you singing when you need to have fucking auto-tune?
Yes.
I don't get it. I mean, why don't you go home and practice, learn how to hit the notes and then come back? I mean, my mum used to look at me. She used to smack me on the back of the head if I fucking sang out of key, excuse my language. But she'd come back and she goes, that's that, sing on key, boy, and give me a whack on the back of the head. And that taught me how to sing on key. You're right. Maybe there's a whole new feeling out there. And I think with that amount of record albums sold and that amount of vinyl, that amount of CD, and I like the fact that you're telling me that the demographics are a lot younger. I think that's fantastic. I remember I was in California a couple of years ago. I went to this geezer's house and he was a big audiophile and a pretty wealthy geezer. And come in this house in Laguna Beach where and he's got this room. He said, oh, do you want to see my audio room? And I said, oh, okay, whatever. It was one of those show-off guys, but still. I come in this room, he's got something like, I think he said to me, because he liked to talk about price tags and everything,
What are those?
Ask me what my couch costs. I said, I don't want to know. Don't ask me. I don't want to know. 50, okay, whatever. $400,000 worth of audio equipment. And it was all, I think, Macintosh or something. And he had these special record player. I mean, I bought a record player to test the album. I think it's cost me $50, 50 quid, So, but he had this record player with special weights on it and all this sort of stuff. But on the other side of the coin, though, he was such an audio aficionado that he loved so much music. And despite whatever his character was, he was a huge music lover. And he couldn't stop talking. That after we went into his room, he couldn't stop talking about bands and music and what he loves about music. And I hope that if that education process moves a little bit forward, I was talking to this kid the other day. Well, he's about 20. And he said, hey, I really like R&B. I said, you like? I said, he was named a few artists. And I said, well, what about people like Marvin Gaye? I mean, who's that? Who's Marvin Gaye? I mean, I just love Marvin Gaye. I mean, he just is incredible. But I think if we can push a lot of that stuff further ahead and actually, as I say, go back quite a bit to go forward a bit, by hearing about these great artists and these great musicians, then I think that kind of education can hopefully help the audience pick something that's really great to go and see. And it's just not a lot of tapes and backing and laptops and auto-tune and all the rest of that stuff. It's actually great musicians. There is a lot of bands that are really focusing now on musicianship, and a lot of singers too. You're getting these new singers out now, like the girl, what's her name again? She's kind of big now. Sienna Spiro. She took off because she's got this incredible voice, bless her. She's only 20, but she went from nowhere to just banging it out in about 6 months. And she's incredible now, but she's got an incredible voice. She's got this fantastic, whether the music's perfect or not or whatever, she's got this incredibly beautiful voice. So that stuff's really coming through. Olivia, I've forgotten her name, Olivia something or other.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah, she's coming out, and all these people that are really top singers. Ray is another one too. People are really clinging to those types of things now, and they're getting really good fans of people that really want to see them on a regular basis, want to see them. I saw something with Ray the other day. This girl was so excited about, oh, I've now seen you 9 times. You know, I love it. And that kind of sort of maybe a bit of obsessiveness and maybe a little bit of over the top love for an artist or whatever is great. And that's what it used to be like. And I think it needs to be more like that today, if it can be, if it's possible. And I think that's probably going to be the best opportunity for musicians to get seen or heard or listened to because of quality and because of great musicianship, and not just because it's a track that was put together by 6 other people or there's 12 writers on the track. There was a funny line in that film Notting Hill with Hugh Grant when he's reading his script, and he opened to the back of the script. He goes, "Who's the writer?" I mean, oh, sorry, writers, because it's such a typical script, right? And it's the same thing. I've talked to this one geezer one time at the Brits here, and he was like bragging to me about the fact that he's got a Grammy. I'm like, oh, that's great. Good for you, mate. I said, you know, which song did you write? Oh, no, I've got a piece of a Grammy. I've got a 9th of a Grammy. And I know this guy can't play a note. He can't do anything, but he presses a button on his computer and becomes part of a song. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't want to take the piss out of him, but I just don't know. I said, well done for that 9th of a Grammy. But yeah, mate, I hope so, Barrett. I really hope that's the direction that things are going to go in. But I'm one of those people. I never give up. I'm like a badger. You know, I just in there and I don't give up until I get what I want out of it or what I'm after or what I'm trying to get. And I never think there's any situation in life where you have to walk over anybody to be successful. If they're in your way, just walk around them. That's all.
Now, what do you enjoy about performing live?
Yeah, you know, it was tough. I mean, the Boys Life guys were fantastic on that tour. They really were good blokes and nice guys and very accommodating too. But for me, it was a bit tougher because I would go out and nobody knew me at all. So you've got to really fight for the audience. And I liked that, to be quite frank. I mean, there were some times, you know, that you went down like a lead weight, you know, you get like one out of 2,500 people, there's one geezer at the back because he's so drunk. And actually, most of our audience, bless the old Boys Life lads, they were about, I mean, in their 40s, 50s, because I came out of Boyzone and Westlife, the two boy band. And so it was basically 95% women. But it sort of came to fruition in Edinburgh. It was a great show. The audience was really thinking. I learned that, you know, the more I engage them and tell them about my song and get them to say, listen to this one or that, then the more they do and the more they're willing to. And I got a lot of great responses after that gig. It was fantastic. Some of the gigs were a little bit rough and tumble because, you know, there was another fella opening up before me and he was a country guy. So it kind of shows you that they're just trying to fill the bill because they need to. They've got a tour bus, they've got staff, they got this, they got that, and 2,500 people does make you to a certain amount of money, but not that much. I think playing live for me was really healthy because I had not done it for a long time, and by the end of the 12 dates, I felt great. I really did, and you sort of get things down pat a little bit. You sort of get a good feeling, what's kind of, and after 12 gigs, I sort of figured out what worked and what didn't work and what was good and what was bad. But, the main thing for me was warbling out my songs to the best of my ability and putting as much passion and as much life into what I do as possible. So sometimes, hopefully, the music actually doesn't necessarily become secondary, but it becomes part of it, though. And people want to see you. They don't want to see somebody standing there like a wax dummy on stage. They want to see you involved in your music. They want to see you looking like you actually like what you're doing. And it's not, the old thing that my mum used to say, that the reason why you have to put on a great performance every night, particularly in the theatre, even though you're doing the same thing night after night, is you never know which night the critics are going to arrive.
Okay, so you've got the album that was just released. You're busy working on the next tracks for the next album that's just coming out in the beginning of next year. What else is happening over the next period of time?
Besides that, we were sort of looking to tack on a bunch of tours, actually, but it now looks, because we got delayed a bit and going back in the studio, and particularly with the musicians also, because we've got some great musicians coming in, but they've also got they've got a lot of work on because they're great musicians and people are still looking for that. I mean, we did some tracks in Abbey Road last time, a little bit, but Abbey Road's more become a place that you get a lot of foreign artists in there because they want to be able to put Abbey Road on the bottom of their album. They'll do their mastering there or something like that, which is not a big deal in that sense. But I mean, even Abbey Road offers mastering online. You can send the tracks to them for £100 a track. They'll master your stuff, but you get to put Abbey Road on your record. So for me, basically, I'm going to focus on the album. I've still got some other writing. I can't stop writing, which again is pissing off Mr. Potter because I keep sending other more, and he says, "Oh, come on, mate, just leave it be for a bit, will you? Just give me some breath, will you?" But that's my main focus for the rest of the year. But we will probably tack on to a few tours at the end of the thing. We looked at a few things like Alison Moyet, stuff like that. But I'm trying to find something that connects with me, or an artist that connects with me a little bit more. And I think that gives you a little bit more of a release when you're able to open up for an artist that you don't necessarily sound like them, but you got maybe the kind of same sort of vibe or the same kind of feeling. For me, I mean, what I do is commonly called pop music, but I tend to call what I do pop soul. I think when it comes to my voice or what I sing, and my voice has changed, which is really odd. You know, about 10 years ago, I was singing probably in the closer to the alto area. Now I'm a tenor. It was really weird when I went back in the studio. My voice had, I feel like I actually matured and my voice finally broke. But I got more of a sort of, they call it, I don't know why they call it this, but mahogany voice, I guess. And I'm happy about that because I've finally got the voice I actually really wanted. And I'm not so, sometimes I play stuff earlier that I did and I'm like, oh my God, I sound like some 12-year-old girl. That's basically the whole year mapped out for me, basically when it comes to music. But I do want to we're probably going to jump on some tours come around October, November. And I want to do some more dates too. But I also like to do some dates outside of the UK, quite frankly. So I'm looking into that also at the same time too. Some things in America and a few other places too. And South Africa, maybe. A decent amount of plays down there. So I want to thank the South African audience for taking the time to listen to a poor little artist from London, and I really do appreciate that. But I do have a lot of heart for South Africa, as we talked about earlier. So, as I used to say all the time to my staff in the morning, I'd say, "Ons gaan partytjie, we're having a party." So, yeah, I got some really good plays down there, some nice feedback also from a lot of people that were listening to the tracks, and I really, really, really super appreciate that more than you know. So there you go.
Col, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message to the audience, what would you like to say?
If you're not too busy today and you haven't got too much on, I'd like you to go to your phone. You could pick Spotify, Tidal, any one of those platforms, even iTunes, Apple Music, whatever you like, and spend a couple of minutes just listening to me and send me a comment on any one of those platforms. And that's all I'd ask you to do.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.